Hello from Columbus, Ohio. I'm Scott Foltz alongside Jason Dye. Those stories plus New Year's bowl games.
And the college football playoffs begin. All that coming up after this. You're watching Sports Talk on CFC, so stick around.
Happy New Year, everyone. We hope you all had a Merry Christmas. The Tulsa Golden Hurricanes certainly did as they took down Old Dominion in the Myrtle Beach Bowl. Tulsa had a strong opening quarter, scoring twice, but the Monarchs were able to answer one of those. The second quarter was the kickers' time to shine as both teams kicked for three, and Tulsa repeated that twice in the third with 2 field goals while shutting down Old Dominion for the quarter. The fourth quarter saw each team score a single touchdown and send Tulsa home with a 30-17 win, capping off an up-and-down season for the Golden Hurricanes.
Not a granddaddy of them all, offensive explosion for Tulsa, but, they did do enough to put enough on the board to hold Old Dominion at bay and get the win.
Yeah, in the postseason, a win's a win.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have to be fancy, just has to get done. The Armed Forces Bowl started off hot for Missouri, the Tigers scoring an early touchdown, followed by a field goal in the first while shutting Army out for the quarter. But Army came around in the second quarter with a touchdown of their own while forcing Missouri to kick twice. The Black Knights trailed at the half 16-7, but shut the Tigers out of the third while crossing the goal line again themselves. Army took a 21-16 lead in the fourth, but the Tigers came back with a touchdown of their own and retook a 22-21 lead. Tigers went for 2 to force an overtime if Army could only get 3, but the pass was wide and it was the Black Knights' ball with 1:11 left to play. Army charged down the field into field goal range, 41 yards out, 3 seconds left to play, split the uprights. The Black Knights of the Hudson returned home with a 24-22 victory and remained perfect in the Armed Forces Bowl. Army has never lost this game.
Now, and if you're Missouri, did you really think that when you're leading by one that you put Army away? You got to play 60-minute football, and you might as well just keep scoring as much as you can because Army will not go away.
Nope,
never. So hats off to Army, and they kept driving, and that's what I love about it because Army could be down 2,000-0, and they're going to continue to play 60-minute football, and you better put 60 minutes on Army, or they will put 60 minutes on you.
Mm-hmm. They will keep on coming.
Mm-hmm.
2 teams from the Sunshine State met in the Gasparilla Bowl as the floundering Florida Gators came in as underdogs to the UCF Knights. The Gators bit first, scoring 7 in the first while shutting UCF out. Second quarter, the Knights scored a touchdown of their own, but the 2-point pass was incomplete. UCF and Florida both kicked for 3 in the second, and the Gators carried a 1-point lead into halftime. Third quarter was all UCF, the Knights scoring 17 points in the quarter while holding the Gators to 7. The fourth quarter saw the least scoring of the game, UCF kicking for 3 more while the Gators came up empty. 29-17 UCF. Congratulations to them, but the question has to be asked, what is going on in Gainesville these days, and can this ship be righted?
Gosh, it's been a disastrous season in Gainesville.
Mm-hmm.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
You had a chance here to prove that you are the top dog on the state. It seems like every Florida team has struggled this year.
Mm-hmm.
You had to go you could have put a pin on a disastrous season. You could say, look, at least we won our bowl game.
Yeah.
We won it against an in-state team. You squandered it away. It was just disastrous. And UCF now, hey, as far as I'm concerned, they're the best team in Florida.
Yeah. And FSU saw this.
Mm-hmm.
Miami saw this.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to Florida has a target on their back at this point. The 2 other big schools of the state, being FSU and Miami, plus UCF did this. They're going to want to do it again.
Yeah, and I'll even go as far to say right now, probably Jacksonville State, coached by Deion Sanders, probably better in Florida right now. I mean, I'm going to say it. You put Deion's team on the field right now against this Florida Gators team, I'll take Jacksonville State all day.
Okay.
There's problems in Florida. They need to get this fixed fast.
Pronto. The Hawaii Bowl was scheduled for Christmas Eve, but it wasn't played due to Hawaii's players either having COVID, being hurt, or leaving for the NFL. So at the very least, we hope that the Memphis Tigers at least got to Honolulu before they found out the game was canceled and were able to spend Christmas Eve in Hawaii as a consolation prize for not getting to play their bowl game.
Yeah, I hope they got to eat plenty of pineapple and enjoy the view.
Mm-hmm.
It's just terrible. Hate to not see a bowl game.
Exactly, and I'm sure they hated not playing it, but Christmas Eve in Hawaii is a nice consolation prize.
Yeah, I'd take it. Yeah.
Put Christmas lights on one of them palm trees like that Corona commercial.
Yeah, do that. I hope they did.
Looking now to New Year's Day, Penn State will take on Arkansas in the Outback Bowl. The Nittany Lions not having their best year, losing to the top teams in the Big Ten East, as well as Illinois and Iowa. They come into this one at 7-5, a very rare record for a Penn State football team. The Arkansas Razorbacks only slightly better with an 8-4 record after their 3-game losing streak in the middle of the season and falling to Alabama by only 7 points before ending their regular season with a 34-17 victory over Missouri. These two look fairly evenly matched. What's the secret to victory here for both of them?
Well, it really starts out right off the bat with opt-outs. Big one for Penn State. They lose Jahan Dotson. He's going to the NFL along with Ebiketie and Brisker. And they also just lost their defensive coordinator, Pry, who's taken over the Virginia Tech head coaching job. Arkansas loses wide receiver Burks and defensive end Williams. It really hurts Penn State more than it does Arkansas. So Penn State, I just hope defensively they gear up because they have to be able to find a way to exploit and disrupt the timing of Arkansas's offense. Even though they're down one of their best players for Arkansas, I still feel they're going to be able to move the ball. They're going to run. Penn State's going to try to run the ball, but with Jahan Dotson now leaving for the NFL, it really takes a big time chunk out of the Penn State offensive playbook. Yeah. Sean Clifford, he's going to have to put this team on the back, probably throw a bunch more than he probably really wants to. You want to include a running game, but Penn State's running game really hasn't been there this year. It just for Penn State, there's too many missing pieces on both sides of the ball. I do like Arkansas in this one, 30-23.
So it's still a close game.
Yeah, still, but I just think you start to see it. Now the good thing is just, maybe other guys step up and make big plays, but experience will be the telltale of this one.
Out to Phoenix, Arizona for the Fiesta Bowl, where Oklahoma State will take on Notre Dame. The Irish come into this one with an 11-1 record and a series of dominant wins following their one loss to Cincinnati. Oklahoma State coming off a loss in the Big 12 championship to Baylor, but the Cowboys beat their in-state rival, ending Oklahoma's hopes at a conference title after they also fell to Baylor earlier in the year. The Cowboys are 11-2, their only other loss to Iowa State by 3. Do they have a chance against a very good Notre Dame team here?
I do. I think they do. If we really think about it, we wouldn't even be talking about this matchup. Oklahoma State was 4 inches away from winning that Big 12 title game, and I know that right now Gundy's got this team fired up. He's like, look, you were this close, and now you're going into this.
4 inches is about that far.
Yeah.
And it might as well have been 100 miles in football.
Absolutely, and it's just, I really think Oklahoma State's going to be really geared up to play this game. I think Notre Dame will too. The Irish lost Kelly to LSU. They gained Marcus Freeman, former Ohio State linebacker. He's going to do great things in South Bend. But Oklahoma State, they still got Jim Knowles for this game, even though he's going on to Ohio State to be defensive coordinator there next year.
And I applaud that. And we've talked about this before, that the coach sticking with his team, finishing out the season.
Yeah, and
he's got a new job at a new school, and we wish him well, especially here in Columbus, but he's being a man about it and saying, hey, I'm not taking my new job until I finish my old job.
And that's hats off to him. I can't wait to see him here with the Scarlet and Gray. He did bring this Oklahoma State defense to prominence this year that were comparable to the likes of Wisconsin and Georgia. So that says a lot. And for him to do this, he's still going to have a challenge taking on Notre Dame. I think he's going to be able to find ways to disrupt Notre Dame defensively. It should be a great one to watch. For Oklahoma State, Sanders is going to have to make some big plays. They don't have an explosive running game. I still think they're going to be able to move the ball on Notre Dame. And it's going to take time for Marcus Freeman to find ways to tweak this Notre Dame team to win this bowl game. Jack Cohn will probably make great plays, and the defense will be sharp, but I really just don't think it'll be enough. I think Oklahoma State starts to find a way in the end to put the Irish away, 27-23.
Another close one.
Which
is what you want these bowl games to be.
Absolutely.
They should be evenly matched teams.
I want to see a good fight.
Yeah. Well, you just might see one over in Pasadena at the granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl, where the Ohio State Buckeyes will take on a very hot Utah squad. The Buckeyes fell to Oregon way back in week 2, and the Utes absolutely destroyed the Ducks both times they played, once in the regular season and again in the Pac-12 championship. Now, the Buckeye team of today is a much, much different team than the Buckeye team of early September. Stroud has matured greatly as a quarterback, and I think he'll be in Heisman conversations for years to come, while the rest of the Buckeye offense has also made great strides, and they are the #1 ranked offense in the country. The Buckeyes' shortfall is their defense. It's not the same defense as years past when the Bosa brothers, James Laurinaitis, and A.J. Hawk were household names in Columbus, but they have made several improvements over the season and are on track to make even more in the offseason. But the Utes are a hungry team, and they're riding some big momentum after thrashing the Pac-12 favorite Oregon Ducks twice. Utah wants their respect, and they plan on going through Ohio State to get it. Can the Buckeyes hold them off, or will Utah go home smelling like roses?
I'll tell you, if you would have told me at the beginning of the season Utah was going to be a dangerous team, I would have said no.
No, same here.
And I think a lot of people, I think unless you're a diehard Utah fan and really know the inner workings of Utes football,
yeah.
First of all, you go and you crush Oregon twice, and you do it once.
We mean crushed.
Yeah, and I mean just beat them all over the place.
They put 38 points, I think, on Oregon both times.
Both times.
Oregon scored 7 the first time and 10 the next time.
Yeah, and to beat them twice, just
that bad.
Yeah, it caught my attention because as the season started to progress, I started going, oh boy, Ohio State's going to have to take on Utah. And right now,
because at the beginning of the season, everybody, including us, we were thinking, okay, Oregon's probably going to win the Pac-12.
Yeah. Yeah, they had all the talent. They had all the talent and all the rights to it. But right now, Utah has been very stout on defense and offense, very sound on both sides of the ball. It's good if they bring in the same plan that they did against Oregon. Obviously, Oregon kind of did the same thing to Ohio State, even though they did beat them twice. I think it could be a long day for Ohio State. Maybe this could be a big time advantage for Utah. For Ohio State. Here we are with opt-outs again. Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, and Petit Frere all out going to the NFL. I don't blame them. But in a way, Ohio State, we always talk about how much talent, how much, 5-star, 4-star guys, and you see guys transferring out of Ohio State all the time. This is their chance to prove next man up. It starts now for Ohio State. They have great coaching with Ryan Day. They have a lot of things to look forward to. C.J. Stroud's obviously going to be here. Jackson Smith and Jigba's going to be huge for this team in the Rose Bowl. But for Ohio State, it starts with defining a tough edge. They've got embarrassed by Michigan. As much as we want to say the holding and all that, you got embarrassed.
Yeah, still lost.
Yeah, you got called a style team, not a tough team. You got, nationally, you've got the finger pointed at you and you're laughed at. There's probably not a lot of people counting Ohio State in this game right now. They say, look, if Utah could do it to Oregon, why couldn't they do it to Ohio State? Right now, it starts now. Find the tough edge, get in there, put the screws to Utah, do it early, do it fast. And I just think this is now shaping up to be a 4-quarter shootout. I really do. I still like Ohio State in the end, 38-35 Ohio State, but I mean, Ohio State's got a big time point.
Yeah, they're going to have to earn it.
Yep, you're going to have to earn this one. It's not going to come easy.
Speaking of easy, down in the Big Easy, Baylor and Ole Miss will meet in the Sugar Bowl. Baylor has been dominant all season, just eating up the Big 12, defeating both Oklahoma teams. Although they did lose to Oklahoma State early in the season, they avenged that loss in the Big 12 title game, and TCU got the better of the Bears earlier on, but otherwise, Baylor has been crushing it all year. Ole Miss burned through the SEC, only falling to Alabama and Auburn for an impressive 10-2 record, and they really made a name for themselves this year. Which team will taste sweet victory in the Sugar Bowl?
Oh boy, they both have been impressive this year. Baylor was actually the unsung hero of the Big 12 this year.
Yeah.
And nobody had them written in to do really anything. It was supposed to be a rebuilding year.
Somebody did.
Oh yeah. Well, and then Ole Miss, kind of the same thing. They weren't really.
They snuck up. They came out of nowhere. Nobody was expecting. I mean, the SEC, it's always talked about Alabama and Georgia.
Right.
And that's pretty much it. And then, of course, everything else because the SEC. But Ole Miss has never really been in conversations till this year, and they interjected themselves in conversations with the way they played.
Right, and I think Ole Miss was one of those teams also that with some just happenings could have been in the title conversation for the SEC. I mean,
Yep.
the SEC title game. I think they had great offensive explosion. I think they had a defensive presence. I think they're going to give Baylor some new looks, some fits that Baylor's not used to seeing. But I like Baylor in this game. I really do. I'm going to call another close one here, but
Okay.
maybe it gets up in the 30s, maybe a 38-35, maybe kind of goes back and forth. Good hard-hitting game between both teams. But I do like Baylor. I think with Baylor beating Oklahoma State, I kind of like Baylor's chances. I really do.
What do you think score-wise?
I think 38-35.
You think same as the Rose Bowl then?
Yeah, I just think it's going to be in that area, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Good game to watch.
That was New Year's Day, but the real story will take place on New Year's Eve. The one-loss Georgia Bulldogs will face Michigan in the Orange Bowl, the Bulldogs coming off their SEC championship loss to Alabama, while Michigan is riding high after taking down Iowa hard in the Big Ten title game. The Wolverines carry some big momentum into this one, but Georgia does not want to end the season they've had with 2 straight losses.
No, and Michigan has been completely dominant in the last 2 games. They absolutely destroyed Iowa. It's very scary. It's very scary what Harbaugh's been able to do here in these last few weeks. This team was unranked at the beginning of the season, has clawed their way up, beat their rival, and go on to win the Big Ten title. And now they're sitting in the college football playoff with a Georgia team that just got blasted by Alabama. So it's going to continue its run. It's going to run first offense between Haskins, Corum. McNamara is not known for taking a whole bunch of unnecessary risk throwing the ball. He's going to make the right throws at the right time. I think it's going to be something that Georgia isn't used to seeing. Bryce Young hung like 421 on Georgia through the air. You're not really going to see that out of Cade McNamara, but when it comes to getting that first down, you're going to find Cade McNamara probably getting those first down. And on the defensive side of the ball, Michigan has feasted, and they know at the right time when to strike you down. They did it against Ohio State. They were able to do it against Iowa. I think Michigan's going to give Georgia a run for their money here. Despite the loss to Alabama, Georgia still is solid defensively. I think they're going to come in with the same game plan. These guys got embarrassed by Alabama. They're going to be looking to shut Michigan down early. Stetson Bennett, he can still sling the ball. He's going to be able to do it. I think he's going to find weak spots in this Michigan defense. The trick is, will that Georgia offensive line have enough time? You've got Aiden Hutchinson and Ajabo on the other end. I mean, it's going to be
2 very good defensive ends.
And they proved it. They've got speed, they have power. And unless you're double teaming these guys, that may open up some defensive spots for the guys in the center, that Michigan defensive line, to really penetrate that Georgia offensive line. But I just think Georgia's had enough time to heal, lick their wounds since this loss. It's going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be hard hitting. I think it's going to be just 4-quarter slobber knocker. But I do like Georgia in this game, 30-20.
10-point game. And in the Cotton Bowl, Alabama comes in at number 1 against the Cinderella story of Cincinnati, ranked 4th. And the Bearcats have something to prove, not just to the sports writers or the media or the internet, but to themselves. Everyone has been saying, well, other than Notre Dame, who have they beaten? Well, if they can knock off the top-ranked defending national champion Crimson Tide, that should quiet a lot of the naysayers. But you know the Tide just won't wash away and let them have it. Since he's going to have to earn every inch. Remember, 4 inches, 100 miles. Can this be the year that a non-Power 5 school goes to the title game?
Cincinnati is the first team out of the Power 5 to make the college football playoff.
Yep.
That should stand out to you. Every phase of the Cincinnati team is complete. They have great guys, Desmond Ridder and Isaiah Ford. They've got great wide receivers on the defense, great blocking tight ends. They block, they get after it. Defensively, they get after it. Luke Fickell obviously he's got a defensive background. He's looked and watched probably every single game that Alabama has played this year, and he is trying to find every advantage because he's going to need every advantage. But Cincinnati does have the personnel groupings to match up with Bama. Like you said, one win over the defending national champion blows this thing wide open.
Yep.
And it's going to take every inch, every ounce of energy that you got. You're going to have to bring it against Alabama. But Alabama didn't have an easy path to the national title playoff. After losing Mac Jones, Devontae Smith, and Najee Harris to the NFL, who knew that they would have ended up being the number 1 seed after losing to Texas A&M earlier?
Yeah.
I mean, their path hasn't been easy, but great coaches do what great coaches do.
Yep.
Saban found a way to get his team back into the playoff. Maybe they had a little help. We touched on that. We're just going to forget the But it's very you can't count Alabama out. They've found ways to win. Now it's heavy. They're a pass heavy team this year. Bryce Young obviously won a Heisman Trophy after beating Georgia, and Cincinnati's going to have to look to take advantage of being able to get to that backfield of Alabama. Bama has proven they're not solid on the offensive line, so maybe some screens and draws for Bama to keep that Cincinnati front line at bay. Because you got to be able to find a way to pressure Young. It's going to be tough. He's a good quarterback. He proved it very early, very often. That's why he's the Heisman Trophy winner. Cincinnati offensively, I think, keeps this Bama defense guessing. I think it's not going to be line up and pushing football. I think Luke Fickell is going to find ways to disrupt Bama's timing defensively to protect his guys and to be able to keep them moving the ball, off-tempo stuff. But went on, this Bama offense is explosive. Their defense can be explosive. They put together a 60-minute game, and this thing could be over in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I just think Alabama, as much as it pains me because I want Cincinnati to win this game, I think Bama eventually gives more than what Cincinnati can handle. 37-20 Bama.
And you had wanted to touch on something about the guys leaving teams and going to the NFL.
Right. And, after the Ohio State guys, Olave and Wilson, Petit Frere, made their decisions to opt out of the Rose Bowl, a lot of people say, what a horrible thing to do. What a terrible thing. It's horrible. You finish what you start. I agree with that. However, in this day and age, you have to protect your livelihood. They're thinking opting out protects potentially protects their
earning potential.
Yeah, their earning potential.
If they get hurt in the Rose Bowl, then their NFL contract is done.
Yeah, their draft stock, goes down, so on and so forth. Everybody in these locker rooms, it doesn't matter if it's Ohio State, Alabama, Oregon, Auburn,
pick a team.
Pick a team.
Yeah.
Business. We're in an age where now college football is big money. It's big business. But when they move on the NFL, they're going to make millions and millions, tens of millions of dollars playing a game.
Yeah.
They want to protect that. They have to protect their bodies to do that. I get it. It sucks. As fans, it sucks. We want to see Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson do great things when C.J. Stroud throws them the ball. But the likelihood is, well, it's just not going to happen. But it's good for teams to have this because it starts to showcase the younger talent.
Yeah,
it showcases
the
next man up.
That freshman who wouldn't get to play in the bowl game, now he does.
Yeah, now he does. He's going to get a little experience. And maybe he puts different...
Can you imagine being a freshman and your first game, really good big game you get to play in, you suit up, you're in the Rose Bowl.
You're in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, or you're in Pasadena in front of thousands of screaming fans playing in the granddaddy of them all the first time you suit up.
Right. And I think it's a good thing. And you start to see their development starts in these bowl games. And maybe where they didn't get to play during the season where, say, Ohio State scored 60 on an opponent and now you get to sit your starters and didn't have that luxury. And in Big Ten play, SEC play, doesn't matter. When you get into the heat of your schedule, you don't have that luxury because you have to win the games. Now you start to see these guys are going to start developing. It's going to be a good thing to see. It's not all bad. Yes, we want to see these players that we've loved and adored over the last few years one more time. But the reality is they have to do what they have to do to protect their future. There's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I started thinking too, when you think about transfers and opt-outs, and in games like this, you know, we've touched on it. Going back to expanding the playoff, because now maybe when you expand these playoffs, you force these coaches into player management, because now maybe you don't have to run your first team squads for the first 3 games of the season, and maybe in some games in your conference schedules. Now you start to rotate in these guys that are, you know, second, third string. You start making coaches kind of think, hey, I need to start managing my guys because I want my best guys at the end of the season. If I know I got a shot at a conference title or making a playoff, I want my best guys available. So you keep them rested. And it's not to say not giving them reps. I'm just saying when they get in the game and you know the game's in hand and you got a 10, 12, 15 point, 18 point lead, whatever, 20 point lead, you start getting those guys a little bit more early reps that are second and third string.
Yep.
So you ain't seeing these guys, you know, 3/4 of the way through the season, up, going to transfer portal. Oh,
Yeah.
well, I can't do it. The heck with this. I'm
And
out.
then now you've got a guy who's got no reps under his belt, but now he's the guy by virtue of attrition.
Because say he, and I know I keep using Ohio State because I'm a homer and that's fine.
Yeah.
That you get the guy that says, oh well, I'm a 5-star guy or
Yeah.
4-star guy, and I
I
know
didn't see any playing
I
time.
didn't see any playing time, so I'm going to go to, instead of playing for Ohio State, I'm going to go to North Carolina, because now guess what? I'm a better player at
Yeah.
North Carolina. Maybe you start seeing those guys start to stay at these schools because now's the time, because now the
Mhm.
coaches are kind of forced into more of a player management role. It's just like in the NFL where you see guys, certain players they're resting, or in the NBA where you see
Yeah.
guys resting more because they've got guys kind of back them up, but their seasons are longer. We're talking like 80 game schedules in the NBA or whatever they play now, 80 to 100 plus games in the MLB. Those guys aren't playing every night.
No.
And I think now, maybe with expanding the playoff, you'll see less transfers. And I think that might be the problem or a solution to the whole NIL thing, where coaches are complaining because players are opting out to go play for somebody else or go to the NFL early or
Mhm.
something like that. Maybe you start to find that the happy medium, and expanding the playoff, I think, could be that answer.
This past Tuesday, the football world lost a legend. John Madden passed away at the age of 85. Madden's legacy began back in the 70s. He coached for the Los Angeles Raiders, the Oakland Raiders. He has had many endorsement deals. He'll be known for his big voice, his sometimes way of stating the obvious of things, his 6 drumstick turkeys at the Thanksgiving games, and obviously his video game franchise. Coach Madden left a huge legacy and a giant hole in the football world with his passing, and we will all mourn him. Jay, did you have something you wish to add?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of go back to when I was a kid, back in the 90s, when I started playing football games, on the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. I believe that's where I think I picked up my first Madden game.
Yep.
Let's see, what was it? Madden NFL 1995 or something like that. And
way back.
you don't think about it until now that he's gone, but how much you appreciate how many times John Madden repeated himself in that game, whatever the play was, and hearing his voice say interception. You knew when you heard his voice and Pat Summerall's voice, or when you saw him on television when they were
This was
broadcast.
a big game. If Pat and John are calling this one, this is a game you need to watch.
Yeah, when John Madden spoke, you listened. And I think
that big booming voice, and he's so knowledgeable and so passionate about the game of football. I mean, he loved it.
He did, and to build the franchises that he did just by his name alone, he had nothing. Let's be honest, he had nothing to do with developing the technology for these games. He had nothing with distribution. All he had to do was put his name on it.
Put his name on it, and they flew off the shelves.
And
just because John Madden's name was on it.
Yep. And when you saw John Madden come up in the news, I don't know about you. I took time to sit back and read that article or watch that little video. Maybe it was just a little skit I know he did something big with Kenny Chesney when he wrote The Boys of Fall, and when Kenny Chesney actually shared the song with John Madden, it was like Kenny Chesney saying, "Hey John, I need your approval for this song," and that's saying something. That's when your legacy is cemented. When people are coming to you for advice, and Kenny Chesney didn't need to go to John Madden, but out of great respect for John Madden, he's like, "Hey, what do you think about my song?" John Madden loved the song, and that's great. It was great for football. He was
John Madden loved football. A legend passing away at the age of 85. And there you have it. We'll be back again next week and review our picks from this week and preview the national championship game. In the meantime, if any talking animals ask you to buy some tacos or beer, for God's sake, do what they tell you. You've been watching Sports Talk on CFC. We'll see you next time.